Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a little challenge reacting to the first episode of The Big Bang Theory, which I've never seen before. I may have seen like one or two random episodes somewhere in there, like in the middle of the series, just because it might have been on TV in the background. But I've never really seen the show, and I know it's made by Chuck Lorre, or Chuck Lorre, however you say it, Lorre, who made 2.5 Men, which I do respect that. It is a good show. I've seen a lot of that, at least up until Ashton Kutcher came in, and that was kind of a contrived, stupid thing that they did. But basically, like, Rose kills Charlie or whatever the fuck happens. But the point is that that is a good show, but what I maybe criticize or observe, and it's true about a lot of sitcoms too, they have like this plug-in mentality. So I know he made a show called Moms, I know he made some other shows maybe, and so his formula is like he'll make these strong characterizations, like Charlie's the player and Alan's kind of a nerdy guy, whatever, and then they keep playing off that the whole time, and that's the whole joke, that's the whole show. Like, that's still fine, and you might say, well, what else do you expect? But that's really the dynamic. There's nothing more to it than that. Like, oh, Charlie's hooking up with another girl tonight, Alan's being weird again, he's a nerd, he's singing some opera song, or whatever, teaching Jake how to sing whatever that one song is, Bohemian Rhapsody or something. Like, so he's being a nerdy guy, you know, Charlie's aloof, so they'll just play off those. So this show I already know, there's an Indian character, so there'll be a lot of jokes to do with that, him being Indian. And then there's a nerdy guy, there's two nerdy guys, Sheldon and whoever the other one is, right? So they'll be nerds all the time. There'll be a lot of, you know, this new age technology, humor, whatever. And then there's obviously the girl, who I know her from somewhere, but I can't remember now when I try to think of it. Kaylee Kuko, right? What the hell have I seen her in before? There was something very prominent that I would always say, oh, she's the girl from that. But now I've been drawing a blank on it. But whatever, she's very well known. She wasn't in That 70s Show, right? That was somebody else, like Lori and stuff. She was in something I've seen, but whatever. So the cast is what it is, but that's what I mean. Like, they'll have strong characterizations for these characters. I think the fact that two of them are nerds, and then even the other one might be, the guy who's Indian, is possibly in the same field of work and stuff as them, but whatever. So it'll be that kind of humor, and that's fine, but I just mean, that's what I'm expecting. So it's not that I even have a negative opinion, but I'll almost like play into that a little bit. So I thought of two formats that I could do for it. Either I watch it until I laugh, and then it's over, but that doesn't seem fair. Maybe I'll do that for a different show. And so I'll watch it until an episode fails to make me laugh. So I have to laugh audibly, like really, a genuine, uncontrollable one, not just like a little smirk or whatever like that. It has to be a legitimate one. I'll be honest about it, and I'll really take note of what the moment is and sort of celebrate, oh, that was a joke that really got me. And the way that they almost have to do it is like, there's like a joke that makes you smirk a little bit, and it doesn't make you laugh, but then they follow it up with something, like the real punchline or something that kind of breaks you down and gets you in that mood a little bit. So it won't count if I laugh at like my own commentary or something like that. So I'll watch it, and every episode has to make me laugh at least once in that genuine, uncontrollable way, where it's like an audible, real laugh, which is hard to do. You know, I have that reputation sort of in my past of reviewing movies that it doesn't mean that I would even dislike them, like comedies or horror movies, but I would never really laugh during comedies. I would never really get scared during a horror movie, and so I'm desensitized or like I know it's not real, so whatever, I can still enjoy them and praise them and get immersed in the atmosphere and whatever, right? It doesn't mean they're bad or that I'm hating on the genres, although I was critical of those too because they often exploit it. They use like, oh, it's comedy, so therefore it's an excuse for quality. It's not good, but then you'll say, oh, but you can't take it seriously. Like Adam Sandler movies, Jim Carrey movies, but you can still take them seriously. There's a difference between Annie Hall and fucking whatever, Ace Ventura or something. And so there's that point, but also horror movies too, I often wouldn't get scared by them. So what I'm doing with this is every other day, so I have a main series going on that I'm reacting to. So yesterday I did that. I'm at episode 2 of The Sopranos. So we'll keep that going as sort of a serious ongoing one where I'll watch the whole show. This other day, right, so today's Friday. So Thursday I did Sopranos episode 2, so tomorrow I'll do episode 3. But today is going to be like a flexible slot where it's like, I'll do this today, and if it manages to meet the condition, that's like a permanent series, it has to survive basically, or it's partly a challenge for me. Like, it's not even that I'm going to try not to laugh, but it has to at least earn it, right? So if I smirk, I might try to fight it a little bit, and so again, I'm not going in with a negative attitude to even say like, oh, I'm watching until it doesn't make me laugh, to imply like, oh, it's not funny or I'm somehow whatever. But I'm cynical. I normally don't like sitcoms that much, and so I'm giving it a little hardball challenge, but it's fine, But I am going to be fair and honest about it. And then finally, the point is this can be a flexible slot. So let's say it did fail, right? Let's say the pilot failed, then tomorrow I'll still watch The Sopranos, but then the next day it opens up another slot for this sort of thing, where I could do another comedy or I could do a horror show. And with the horror show, I think what I'll do is I'll watch until I get scared. So that'll be my punishment. If I genuinely get scared and I flinch back or I have like some really audible reaction or something, right, that's a genuine scare, then I have to stop watching. So that's almost like a punishment. So it's like a challenge where, I fail, try not to get scared challenge, basically American Horror Story or something like that. So this slot will be much more flexible and will give variety. And then we have, on the other day, I'm watching The Sopranos Committed. It is a good show. Both of the first episodes got a B, which doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best. But whatever, you can't judge it too harshly. I definitely respect the style of it and everything. That is a must-watch thing. This is apparently 12 seasons long, which is surprising. I don't think it's still going on because they're doing like Young Sheldon and stuff, so you would assume it must have ended and then they started doing that, or maybe not. I can't remember exactly when it came out. I can't see the synopsis and stuff. So we're starting in 3, 2, 1... the stupid ass ad plays on HBO Max. So I'm watching on HBO Max and then, so I have to do this for my own benefit too. So I'm playing in 3, 2, 1 from the very beginning of the video. I'll say it now. 3, 2, 1. There you go. T-shirt joke to start. He going on a nerdy ramble. So he's nerdier though. I know Sheldon is nerdier than. I don't know what the other guy's name actually is. I like his swagger there, correcting her and being smart. So that was a smirk at least. These kind of characters I like. The snarky, like Berta and the other guy, like the therapist from 2.5 Men, they're kind of snarky, sarcastic. He always has characters like that are pretty entertaining. That was another smirk. Smirk count. There should almost be a conversion if I get enough of those. So the point is that, what was I going to say? This starts off like that one movie. Lowest common denominator sort of humor of going to a sperm bank. Like, that's really the first setup that you have. Like, I get it, but there was some movie that Siskel and Ebert hated. I can't remember the name of it. That was based on the guys becoming a manager of a sperm bank. See, he's like a more... like, he's a more balanced nerd, and Sheldon is a full nerd. You gotta have a character who's not a nerd, which is, I guess, the girl, who maybe just moved in. Penny, I think, is her name. Oh, you can't use that word, though, transvestite, anymore. Already starting off super awkward. High is a joke in 20, whatever this came out in. I think of Sheldon as being a little more resistant to that. Like, he doesn't care as much, or he's like not as sexually. Yeah, this show's not progressive enough. They're already making those kind of jokes that would get you canceled today. But no, you need a contrast. Besides her, I guess. It's gonna beat that like a dead horse, though. See, that's the problem. That was actually a good literal. Does that count as a laugh? Okay, maybe I'll count that one. This is the little intro. Just the way he said it, and that was the punchline. It's not bad, but like, I don't know. I don't know what to think of it, really. I'm not going in with a negative attitude, so it's the fact that he brought up the sperm bank in such a literal fashion. Just restating stuff very directly. They're both going to try to impress her. They're going to make her dumb, kind of, but Sheldon is actually pretty well written, the way he... I'm surprised at this Sheldon thing. I thought he'd be more... Like, I thought he'd be, well, he kind of was putting him resistant there, but he's resistant to the whole sexual charm and that. Like, I thought he'd almost be indifferent to it. He wouldn't realize that, I still don't know what the other guy's name is. I keep missing it with the glasses. So I thought he wouldn't care as much about the girl and be like, oh, let's just play games. Which he's kind of like that, but he still seems a little taken by her. Imagine letting, I give you this one. +1 character point system for Sheldon. +1. I said that all the time. Imagine blaming celestial objects for your personal problems. That's the line you could use. She's like a typical basic girl. So even the nerds are at least she's almost like Candy so far, but she'll probably become smarter later. Making her too dumb, but it's like, would you rather be a nerd or a basic bitch? The nerds are at least more accomplished than a dumb waitress. False guise of normalcy and whatever lack of substance is taken as comforting by the masses. See, I kind of talk like Sheldon sometimes. Perfect rebound opportunity. Steal the seat back, good one. They didn't really, that's like an Alan moment. They don't even, they just are doing that too much though. On these little factoid diatribes. Like, we get it, we get the joke, but they're gonna beat it like a dead horse. The yes, yes, no, no, hi, hi, whatever, stupid shit. How desperate must she be that she's hanging out with you fucking nerds who are making so... It's one thing to be a nerd, but, like, you gotta have self-awareness. Like, I'm a nerd, but... Yeah, he's being the literal one. Have like a little secret peephole for these occasions. Have a meaningful relationship with someone special. That's what he wants. Just randomly shower in somebody's fucking apartment, like no introduction needed. Or you don't bring your own stuff. So these are... Oh yeah, I forgot about this other character. This guy I didn't even know existed. I kept thinking of these three and the girl. Leonard is his name. Okay, we got Leonard, Sheldon, Raj. Who is this guy? I like the way he talks. And I like his haircut. they're all like they're all too similar. That's the thing. This is going for like the most lowest common denominator stuff in the first episode, though. Sperm bank, girl showering in your place. The way she said that was kind of passive-aggressive, like, I work at the Cheesecake Factory, but she's saying it more like a dumb, like she doesn't know any better, not that she's mocking the show-off nature. Nice shower curtain periodic table. That kind of represents the show overall. He's a cuck, he likes it. Oh, that's a good line. See, that's a smirk line. I'll do a smirk counter. Leonard is like Alan, but Sheldon's like a nerdier version of even Alan, and then the other two, I haven't seen anything from Raj. He's going to pretend like he doesn't speak English. But you're all nerds too, and you've been doing just fine. The audience will be like, Penny, they won't know what the fuck he's saying, but they'll still laugh, ha ha ha. And that certainly doesn't count, I'm mocking it. It's too much of the same shit. Too many of the same characters, too much of the same jokes. I would have added another male character who's not a nerd, which could be Raj. The other guy seems like a nerd too, with a haircut that I like. $180 each, I assume. I wonder if they give you an IQ test to go to the sperm bank, like you have to be a certain level at the beginning. Good line there. It's a good answer, I guess. 180, pretty good. Should have thought about that with your big brains, come up with a better plan. Alright. Oh, good one. The Sheldon has some good lines like that. Quips. He's very quippy. She's not out of your league because she's so fucking dumb, like Candy for Alan. Let's see how accurate this is. Is it going to be like South Park? Like South Park does it wrong because you can't level up just by killing boars. Fact checking. Make them look like losers, though, that they couldn't handle it together. Already your first date, like, this is too laying it on kind of thick, dude. Oh, wow. Okay, Sheldon gets some smirk points, though. He would have enough smirk points to calculate turnout into one laugh, and he did get the laugh, too. He hasn't said anything to anyone, though, Raj. That made him smile. He's smirking, too. So that's the end of the episode. Get the outer credits. So I at least like how these are shorter. Sopranos is almost like an hour, 40 minutes, so that makes it a little harder to fit it in. At least here we can do an outro. So it survives on the strength of Sheldon as a character. I actually liked him more than I thought I would. But again, I don't like the lack of contrast between these other characters. That's my problem. Right? They all seem too similar. Leonard and Sheldon, like, what's the difference? That Sheldon's even nerdier than him? Like, I don't get it. Why would you... It's like having multiple Allens or multiple, like you have Charlie and Alan, not to compare everything to that, but that is his bread and butter, right? That's what made Chuck Lorre famous, or probably early in his career, at least, it was a bigger deal. You have too many of the same archetype that are all going to be making sort of the same jokes, just in different categories. So it's like you're splitting up nerdiness into four. And I don't think Rod said a whole fucking thing the whole episode either. So they're all into the girl, including Sheldon, which I was a bit surprised by. So it only got one true laugh out of me, and I'm surprised even it did. It was like a half-hearted one, too. It was half-hearted because it was at the beginning when he said, we spent, like, what were you guys doing today? Oh, we spent the most of the day masturbating at Sperm Clinic or whatever, right? Masturbating into a cup. Like, that kind of caught me by surprise. And he had a lot of good quips. Like, at the end of every conversation or every scene, like... What was the one when he's up to say, you're not going to win a Nobel Prize? He's kind of snarky there. There's just a lot of good little one-liners that he does have, so he can be entertaining that way. But yeah, you need somebody who's a little bit of a contrast, like a little macho man, bodybuilder type or something, like almost the guy who beat them up, but that, it can't always contrast outwardly. It has to contrast, like, with a recurring character. Maybe Ron, they'll all be working together, so it makes sense that they'd all be kind of nerdy, so... If Penny's the only contrast, and they made her kind of dumber than I thought, right? Leonard is about what I expected him to be. He's the main character, so he's nerdy, but he kind of cuts it short a little bit. Sheldon kind of embraces the nerdiness, right? Leonard's almost embarrassed by it a little bit. Sheldon likes it and is just the way he talks is very interesting. Not just his monotone delivery, which is almost like mine. I'm literally Sheldon, but also just how he goes on these long diatribes that nobody really even understands, including probably the fucking audience. They can be pretty entertaining. Then the other guy with the crazy hair, I didn't catch all their names, or I guess I already knew probably some of them, but that guy, I like his appearance and vibe, but again, he's trying a little bit too hard as well. And then Raj doesn't even say anything like maybe the whole episode. That would be an interesting little factoid, I guess. Did you know in the first episode of The Big Bang Theory, you see these like 30-second shorts on YouTube? Did you know that Raj doesn't actually say anything because he's pretending not to know English because of Penny or because he's just awkward and a nerd? But I love how that's a disqualifier. He's a nerd, so therefore he can't talk to girls. Also, all three of us are talking to Penny as we say that, and I'm literally saying it as a nerd, like that guy. So he's the only name who I actually missed. Yeah, it wasn't actually as bad as I thought, and, so it does survive into the second episode. So what was the exact line? Maybe I'll try to go back and find it, but Season 1, Episode 2. Why does it say there's only 6 seconds? Oh, it's because it's like the credits part. It's like its own separate thing, which almost makes it confusing. So you have the credits and you have the little intro thing. So yeah, that was good for today. So tomorrow I'll watch the other episode of Sopranos, episode 3. And if I was to bring my elitist victim blamer thing into this too, it'd be like, there was a moment where, like, if you're that smart, you should be able to figure out these situations. You should be able to figure out how to get a fucking TV or something. Or you should be rich or some, sugar daddy type, whatever, capable. And then there's something else I was saying with that elitist victim blamer, like, with the girl, like, it's your fault, you should have better judgment, you broke up with this guy, so your judgment sucks, like, it's just, it's your own fault, basically. That's sometimes what I go into in either reactions or reviews or whatever. It's almost like an RP type of thing. You're role-playing as, like, basically a dick who believes in human potential, but then you hold it, and yeah, I have some of my own little nerdy terms. Instead of going on these long diatribes, just say the stimuli acme. That's something that means basically sex in the highest measure that human people know. It's kind of an extension of Freud's theory. The idea that you would, people hold sex in the highest regard, or they hold pleasure and hedonism in the highest regard, and the highest form of hedonism is sex, and so therefore, that's what it is. The stimuli acme, like the highest form of stimulus, meaning, in this case, hedonism, meaning pleasure, meaning sex. So that is held above everything else, which doesn't necessarily make a point on its own, but it's just to show, like, it's a reactionary standard that's not really held in inherent value. Like, the highest form of expression that people know is sexual in nature, whether that be positive or negative. Like, so most profanity is sexual in nature, right? You're saying, fuck, that's amazing, fuck, that's terrible, whatever. All these other insults have to do with sexual things because, in other words, human beings can think of no higher form of expressing something than something that is based in sex. They have no other measure in life, right? If you take that away, what else is it? Just something undesirable like defecation and stuff, but that shows you their whole mind. You're not thinking about it when you say it, like, oh, that guy's a dick. That chick's a bitch. You're not thinking about it sexually when you say it. You're just saying, oh, they're a jerk. I don't like them, whatever, F them. But the fact that you're deferring to the stimuli acme and still deferring to sex basically as a topic there, what that means is this is appropriate. Actually, it's part of this sort of, just the way that Sheldon is kind of similar to these discussions that I've had in the past. Debate format and all that I've done. And so the point is, nobody can out-nerd me, but I at least I own it. I don't feel embarrassed about it. Like, you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, that's what it means, basically, is you can think of no higher form of expression than hedonism and sex and pleasure, and so therefore that's where a lot of it comes from. You can see that in music, you can see that in profanity. Most music, most lyrics have to do with love, romance, whatever. You can see that there are a couple other examples that I gave, kind of just in society overall, like that's part of the goal, to get married, have kids, and have a white picket fence, and split your whole life. You live with the other person because you happen to be in a sexual relationship like that. That's how society is formed. But you can say, oh, that's natural and that's normal. It's good for raising kids and all. But it's just to defer to the idea that is not necessarily the highest measure or the only measure, but that's how it's treated. There's almost a concession that there is nothing else. Like, it's just your own innate pleasure in a very carnal, basic, intrinsic sense, right? Just like a natural two animals humping together. That is literally what it is that you're using as such a high measure. So, yeah, it was a good first episode. We go on our little diatribe there. It barely made it, though, because the only real laughing moment was that. And it really wasn't, but I'll count it. I said I'd be fair. I kind of, audibly laughed a little bit. I don't know if you could hear it on this, but just him joking about what we were doing today. And he had a couple good smirk moments, so that at least gives it a positive feel that Sheldon was consistently funny throughout the episode. Leonard really wasn't. Penny really wasn't. Penny is being played as an archetype of being dumber than I thought, like a repeat of Candy from Two and a Half Men, which I feel like over time she won't be that dumb, or maybe that's the influence of being around these other characters, but, she's acting like deliberately almost ditzy and whatever. And you'd have to have some self-awareness of the situation, like, oh, she's, she knows what she's doing maybe a little bit, like how she's showering there and this and that. Yeah, I'm surprised Sheldon was even into her a little bit, to the extent that I thought he'd be a little more cold to that sort of thing, which he sort of was, but it was sort of a different perception than what I would assume as the series goes on. He'll be very indifferent to such things, and Leonard seems a little more into it than that. So she just moved in. That's basically the trigger point of, like, why does the series start here? That was the major event that happened. She moved in next door. And we didn't get to see anything about their jobs and stuff, so that's one of the things it leaves you to wonder. Like, we see the graphs and the charts and stuff, but we don't see... Imagine that, like, you watch this in science class or something, or, even the Big Bang Theory is an innuendo joke, obviously, but, even, whatever, it all started with a Big Bang, like your mom, haha, this is the best joke of the whole thing. Your mom had a Big Bang, and that led to you existing in the first place. But I mean, that's literally what the joke is, like, whatever, innuendo and all. But yeah, it seems like a one-trick type of thing. So we will be hard on it, though. Like the second episode, we'll see. Will it get an actual legitimate laugh? Because this one barely did, despite my deference to all the smirk capabilities. So what else can we say? Like, let's do an extended outro, because I don't like to talk during it, but I mean, you got to fill in the little holes of space, otherwise what's the point, right? Like, this is my whole form of doing it. I'm something of a Sheldon myself with respect to the whole, I guess I could do the second episode too, but that wouldn't make sense. Like, we kind of want to alternate it like this. So I like this format because of the variety that it'll give me, or if it doesn't, then that means the show's always living up to a certain standard. But no, I could have almost done a second one in this much time. But I don't really want to. That was good enough, so let me rate it as I've been rating these first episodes of other series that I've been watching, or just episodes overall. So let me try to remember. Like, Girls got a B, and then it got like a C something for the second episode. Then Sopranos got like a B plus, and then like a B, something like that. And so this would get probably a barely passable C, or a C plus. It really wasn't anything special. Again, it goes for the obvious jokes. The best way to describe sitcoms is like, just what you see is what you get, or like what you expect is what you get, right? You know what it's going to be, you know what the jokes are going to be, they're all sexual, they're all the same cliches, things we've seen in other shows 100 times. Even as somebody who's not an avid sitcom watcher, like, we get it, right? Sex is funny, yeah, that was the other point with the stimuli acting. Most profanity has to do with sex, most music has sex in its lyrics, like romance and things to do with that, and then finally most humor has to do with sex. Right, most jokes are going to be about that, relationships, dating, something in some way. So all those things, like, you can think of no other form of expression, anything else to talk about, anything else to joke about, anything else to sing about, anything else to show elation or disgust using, profane language. You can think of nothing else, no higher measure than simply something sexual in nature or related to it in the process of whatever, romance and things like that. So that does show you a lot. I guess either that or violence, like in fiction. Those are the two primary conflicts, like romance and violence, whether you live or die, or whether you, feel this extreme pleasure. Those are the two most important things. So there is no higher measure being shown there. That's basically the point. Like, there is no, whatever you want to defer to, that's all you know. So it's just hedonism. So your life value could just be, you just want to have as much pleasure as possible, right? Rather than pretend like, there's all these other standards that we strive for, but that's the highest one that is shown, evidently, by expression. So yeah, Chuck Lorre does again. however the fuck you say it. And one of my favorite little minor characters that you saw, although we didn't see that many minor characters, is you saw the receptionist there at the sperm bank. She was kind of funny with her little snarky sensibility, right? That is reminiscent of the therapist or Berta or somebody like that from 2.5 Men, where like they have these immediate, I don't know, sarcastic vibe to them. But yeah, we could do the character point system too. So Sheldon gets basically a +1 for the laugh. That's an immediate truth, right? Just if you do that, you're already going to be in a position where you can get a point for being the reason why the series even goes on. And then the second one is what other character points could we give? So Sheldon gets at least +1 for that, and we'll give him +1 overall for all the smirk moments combined. I'll give you. So he's +2 for that. There's nothing really that I can take away. Sheldon gets a -1 for being sort of a little basic himself. Just, he is a nerd, but he's kind of weird about being a nerd, and he doesn't own it the way that Sheldon does. And so he's like a half-ass nerd. And then, I don't know, he's just kind of unimpressive, unmotivated, a little bit uninspired maybe even. How he's written, he's just kind of there as like a lesser version of Sheldon. So he gets -1 just for his overall lack of really doing anything. I mean, again, he's a nerd the same way, but and I guess he gets +1 though for being, I'll just leave him at a -1. And then Penny gets a -1 for being a lot dumber than what I thought. And then the other two, Raj gets a neutral because he doesn't even say anything. So, I mean, I can't judge him. You could count that as a negative, but I'll leave that as a neutral. And then better to be silent and have people think you're a fool than to open your mouth, speak, and leave no doubt. And then the other thing is going to be the other guy whose name I didn't even catch. He'll be like a neutral too. He's like trying too hard, but he also has a cool vibe and appearance and everything. So those would kind of balance each other out. So the final standing is, at the bottom you have Penny and Leonard together as he would want them to be. For like not really having a sense of identity and sort of being a nerd but not really owning the fact that he's a nerd. That would be Leonard. And then obviously Penny is going to be for being a lot dumber than I even thought, and just, elitist victim blamers say like you have a relationship that you're talking about regrettably and sort of outing your own poor judgment. Okay, and even hanging out with these nerds, like he's even saying you're out of my league, and you might be, but you're also dumb as shit. So I imagine that'll change or improve throughout the series. And then finally, at the top, you have a +2 for Sheldon, where he didn't do anything really that I would object to or criticize. And I'm doing it within the context of the series. Like I do this in other shows, like if it's like a detective show, and you have a team of like 4 investigators, right? Like The Mentalist. Grace would be, I would keep shitting over Grace. She gets a -this, -that, because she's not doing anything, and she's dumb, and she can't figure out that her boyfriend is a mole for the enemy, and all these kind of things. So I kept shitting on Grace with it. So she's like -50, and then, Jane gets a +1 here, Red John gets a +1 there. So it's like I keep rating them based on how impressive they are at what they're doing. Not even my own subjective standard. So Leonard being sort of the unconvincing nerd a little bit, and Sheldon did very well for his little quips and for his ability to get the laugh and keep the series on life support, and just all the tangents he goes on. So he'd be at a lofty +2 at that point. So yeah, I don't know what else. Let me think what other thoughts we have on the show. Let me try to recap. So you start off with the sperm bank, which is a very lowest common denominator sort of thing to do. Again, you're appealing to the sexual humor, which is all these people can ever think of. And not only is that the case, but you're in a position where you also, I don't know, it just feels kind of weak and almost lazy a little bit. And then beyond that, you go from there, you see the new neighbor. Okay, pretty big cliche. Isn't that how Friends starts? Like somebody's moving in, but I can't remember who. I guess Rachel comes to move in because she's been denied by her parents for not marrying the person that they want her to marry, and she comes in like the wedding dress or whatever, something like that. So it's a similar start to that. But no, this is like the typical sitcom dynamic where there's like 4 guys and 1 girl, where you'd be in a position of whatever, like Seinfeld is like that. I guess Friends really balances it out. How I Met Your Mother kind of balances it because you have Lily and Robin, so that's like 2 versus 3. and Barney's just kind of like his own entity. I wouldn't even consider him anything. Like, he's just whatever he is. He exists outside the common rules of society. So who is that, like, zany, oddball type of guy? Like the Kramer of this series, or the Kramer, the Barney, even the Chandler, like, where you get this kind of off-the-wall humor that's different than everybody else. I'm not really seeing it unless Raj is that, right? Penny is the girl, so that's a contrast a little bit, but you need somebody else. Like, she's outside the friend group. I really think they made a mistake here just on the basic level. Not that they need my advice, because it was a very successful show, but one character is missing. Take the guy with the crazy hair that I like and turn him into somebody who's a little more normal, right? Who's for some, like, he does a lot of the physical labor for them. He helps them in their experiments, and they could introduce more characters later, but this is going to be the main cast, and I feel like it's going to get to ad nauseum of the same jokes. Like, this guy's a nerd, so he makes a nerdy joke. Then this other guy's also a nerd, so he makes another nerdy joke. How about have some cool guy who's a handsome guy, but who also helps them with projects, doing a lot of physical labor. He helps move the ship back and forth when he's doing an experiment or whatever, something like that. Or, Raj could be a little bit less nerdy than the others, but they even say he's a nerd, and he's such a nerd that he can't talk to girls. But yeah, she certainly warmed up to them quickly in a way that's almost pathetic a little bit, like, oh, you're out of our league, but you're really not because you're dumb, or because you're whatever, you're just kind of almost fiending for attention, desperate for attention, looking for a rebound. So Leonard's going to catch her as the perfect rebound sort of moment where you're able to capitalize on that. Like, I at least would speculate that's what ends up happening. I don't know for sure. Like, maybe she goes around. This is also the problem with sitcoms, right? This is like a trope. The girl ends up going out with, like if there's one girl or whatever, she'll end up going out, like, with everybody or something, or multiple of the main characters. So, like, Robin ends up with Ted, but then she ends up with Barney for a long period of time, too. So it makes it seem like they're, you're, like, passing the one girl around. And so it's like, Penny's going to be with Leonard, but then she'll also maybe be with Sheldon briefly, and then she'll maybe also be with somebody else. Like, it's possible that they'll keep rotating that around, and she ends up with everybody, which is kind of, I don't know, it just makes them seem like a certain type of individual, like a slut or whatever. And so, but no, that's like a writing contrivance almost, that they end up keep doing that over and over. And everybody hated how the Barney thing ended in that, like, they're supposed to get married, and then they either don't, I can't even remember, or they break up afterwards, and then that's it. And so that leaves Robin ready to rejoin Ted again in another toxic relationship that'll probably lead to a breakup again after they write out the mother, like, really quickly and stuff like that. So I don't know what to really make of that particular thing. So yeah, everybody hates the ending of that, and then so yeah, it's like a C, I'll give it, which would be almost not passable. Maybe it should have to pass that scale too. But no, for this I won't count it. The whole sole challenge is you have to make me laugh, which again, somehow, some way, I guess I'll go back and even listen to it to see how loud it was. See, I'm just going to talk till the end of the drive, so it seems like, oh, this guy's rambling on. But it was a decent episode, really nothing special. Again, it's fine. My main objection is just the lack of diversity in characters. There's got to be, like, you got to think about that. You need, like, a Kramer. That's what I was saying. Who is the Kramer who's, like, the crazy, zany one doing wild stuff? Leonard is reserved. Sheldon is even more reserved, it seems like, even though he kind of has a big mouth and isn't afraid of, showing off he's a nerd. They're both sort of in that nerd dichotomy. The third guy's a little bit crazy, but with the hair, but he's still a nerd. Then Raj is being characterized as a nerd. So I guess, you can't have Penny be both the nerd and the thing at the same time, right? You can't have, what the fuck is Kaylee Kuko in, though? I can't remember. I've seen her in something that I saw at least a reasonable number of episodes for, or something. She was like the daughter of somebody in some show that I had seen. My most experience with sitcoms is it would just always be on TV when I was younger, in the background, like my dad or somebody would be watching it, and so I would see some that way, but I would never really take interest in them. And the only one that I made a point to really watch the whole thing was Seinfeld. That's the only one that I've seen in full. I've seen most of How I Met Your Mother, and I do respect it, because the writing is actually really good, the way they introduce all these different themes and things in every episode. There's like there's more to it than what you'd expect. I don't know, the narration and some of the themes that they go through are a lot deeper than what you'd expect from a mere sitcom. It almost plays at like some Woody Allen type level, Annie Hall, where there's the narration going on that elevates all the material a little bit more than what you would expect. So, How I Met Your Mother's up there. I mean, even a show that I might compare to sitcoms is Psych, even though it's not, where it's this great buddy cop dynamic with a lot of humor in it, with Sean and Gus and everything, best buddy cop duo ever in history. And so, even though I don't like comedies, I love detective shows, and so that managed to make up for it. And so I think it's a great show despite that, even though the character can be obnoxious, and I just criticize, like, Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler movies and Ace Ventura, which it fits almost right into that mindset. It still works because it's so good in the other areas, and so that's where I'm at least a little bit objective that I might be predisposed to not normally like such a thing, but then I still like it because, if it succeeds at what it does. So yeah, it's a lukewarm reception. We keep it on life support, and so we could almost look to, do it. I guess that maybe I could almost do 2 episodes in one shot the next time, because I could have easily gotten through the second one, but I kind of want to spread it out, where every other day we do a thing like this, and this was almost the length of the episode that I was going for. Right, I wanted it to be like this because, then you don't feel like you have to rush it, or you could pause it. Not that I'm pausing here because I'm driving, but you have time for an outro, you have time for whatever else. So it kind of lucked out, honestly. I could have easily not laughed there, and I was almost questioning it, but we'll give it to you on the technicality. That's fine. And so, I want to have variety in this other slot, but if it earns its keep, then so be it. So all the expectation is I just have to laugh once. That's all I have to do. If I laugh once during the course of the whole episode, right, then it succeeds, and then I watch the next one. That's kind of a low standard to imply that almost either I'm desensitized and I don't laugh at anything because I'm just hardened like that, like nothing scares me and nothing makes me laugh. But also, it's a case where you'd be in a position to basically almost imply that it's not funny, or it's like a one-trick sort of thing, and I'm almost looking down on it a little bit going in, even if it's like, going in with a negative attitude, but I'm really not. It's like, I'm still willing to try it. It's just such a well-known, conspicuous show, and that's why this whole thing is perfect for me, because, I may as well watch something every day while driving, because I drive a lot, at least like an hour every day back and forth, whatever, every other day, or whatever it ends up being. And so basically it gives me a chance to watch all these series, because I haven't seen any of them, really. All the big name shows, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, I haven't seen any of them, so I wanted to see Monk, actually, because I like shows like that so much, whether it be Mentalist or Psych or something, detective type shows, things like that. But see, not just a straight detective show like CSI or something. I wanted to have like a little gimmick to it, which those shows do, where they're like, a psychic or a fake psychic or whatever, who uses their advanced skills to do stuff, which I assume Monk is like that too. And what else? So yeah, I wasn't particularly impressed. The main things I was surprised by was Raj maybe not saying anything, or I just didn't notice him saying anything. And then even in the scenes like where she was in the shower, right, Raj was still there, and so she wasn't even there, but he still wasn't talking, or I didn't notice it. I was surprised by Leonard's sort of banality and basicness. Despite being a nerd, I was shocked by the how stupid Penny actually is. I thought she'd be a little sharper than that. Maybe because she's just going through a tough breakup, but that doesn't change anything. But no, they're going to keep making these jokes, like kind of like how I'm beating this whole reaction like a dead horse and just rambling on. They're going to keep beating this stuff like a dead horse, like all these jokes. Insert nerd reference here, Star Trek, World of Warcraft. I mean, World of Warcraft I don't even think is a nerd game, because it's like, it's just so good, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's played that, but I wonder what expansion this would have been in. I should have been able to identify that from there, but we'll fact check it for that level. It'll get a -1 if it does something incorrect, but I guess if it's WoW after Wrath of the Lich King, which it probably must be, because it's, whatever, it wouldn't be that old of a show, 2008 to 2011 or whatever, would have been Wrath, then I would kind of consider that against it, because it's like South Park. You had one job to portray WoW, but then you show the boar thing, which somebody actually did a challenge where they killed only boars, but not the way they portray it there. Like, you can't just kill the boars in Elwyn Forest, right? 0 out of 10 episode, the Sword of a Thousand Truths or whatever the fuck it was that they had there. That's the only episode of South Park actually that I saw, and it was for that reason alone. Somebody, I would be playing WoW, so somebody was telling me, oh, they're doing a WoW special episode, so you got to see it. I think that's hilarious. We get more of a genuine laugh from my own fucking commentary than that. But no, I'm definitely not the sitcom type of person, but I'm giving it a chance. It's just not the sort of thing I would ever watch, like comedies in general, comedy movies. But again, if it's good enough, I won't hold it against that. Like Psych, that's how Psych started for me. I'm like, oh, I don't really like this character, Sean, and I don't really like the humor, and it's kind of obnoxious and forcing it on you. But again, the mysteries and the other characters, and that's why you have the contrast. Gus can be funny too, but he's a little bit of a straight man for the humor. Who is the straight man here? I guess Sheldon, but that's not, because if the humor is already based on nerdiness, you need a straight man then who's not a nerd. It's actually an interesting dynamic that they created. It's the opposite of what you'd expect. See, in 2.5 Men, Charlie's the player, and then the straight man, or whatever. Like, Alan's the nerd, and then the straight man to his nerdiness is Charlie, because he's a player, and then vice versa. Charlie's the player, so you'll do some extreme sexual thing, and then Alan is the check to that, the straight man to that, because he's a nerd, he's more, committed type of relationship guy, so he's appalled by Charlie's sexual exploits, and then Charlie's appalled by Alan's nerdy exploits, right? So you have a straight person for both. Here, I don't get it, because it's going to be that Penny has to be that person, but it just wasn't convincing enough of a character. She's very banal and dumb and seems unaware of everything and just listening to these nerds ramble on about their shit and not having a clue what they say, but still going with it, like, kind of like me. Like, I'm just going with it, but I'm not, like, super into it or anything.